Look at the USS Abraham Lincoln. It's a massive nuclear-powered aircraft carrier floating on an endless ocean. Yet right now, this vessel is struggling to give its own crew a single clean drink of water. Below the deck, the situation is grim. Sailors report living with broken toilets, with moldy showers, and raw sewage backing up directly into the passageways. The taps themselves are contaminated. The psychological toll of living like this is severe. Families of the crew have reported that sailors are completely burnt out. Some have even attempted to jump overboard just to escape the conditions inside the ship. It is a brutal paradox. You can be standing on a vessel surrounded by millions of gallons of water on all four sides and yet die of thirst. A crew can be soaked to the skin, but entirely parched in the soul. We are seeing a parallel paradox unfold in the civilian sector. The artificial intelligence boom in Texas is driving massive technological progress, but it is causing severe, localized resource depletion. To grasp the scale of this, look at Project Matador in Amarillo. It is a planned AI data center complex backed by Fermi America, a firm co-founded by former Texas Governor Rick Perry. When finished, this site will cover 5,800 acres, almost 7 times the size of Central Park. This map of Texas illustrates what we can call the extractive river. These enormous facilities require industry-standard evaporative cooling to function. By doing so, data centers across the state are projected to pull up and evaporate as much as 50 billion gallons of local water annually. Because tech firms are currently not required by Texas law to disclose their water consumption, state planners are caught off guard. While massive servers are kept perfectly cool, rural Texans and well drillers are watching their own residential groundwater supplies dry up. Unchecked technological growth operates as a one-way system of extraction. It pulls resources from the very communities that host it, leaving them completely drained. There is an ancient counter-narrative to this extractive model found in the biblical text of Ezekiel 47. It describes a river flowing out from a sanctuary in Jerusalem that operates on a completely different logic. This is the miracle of zero tributaries. As this river flows outward, it deepens and widens rapidly, with absolutely no external streams feeding into it. Its depth is fueled purely by the sanctuary's outward flow. It grows not by taking, but solely by giving. While the data centers in Texas depend on the constant intake of a community's resources, the logic of the sanctuary river is inverse. It grows not by what it takes in, but by what it pours out. This river also follows a topography of surrender. Instead of pumping water up into a massive industrial facility, this restorative water flows straight down, dropping 3,700 feet in elevation. It travels all the way down to the Dead Sea. This is the lowest, most hostile and toxic aquatic environment on Earth, with a salinity level of roughly 26%. But grace targets the most broken places. When the sanctuary water hits the toxic salt, it transforms the bitter water into a fresh environment, suddenly swarming with fish and fruit-bearing trees. The promise here is that wherever a community or a person feels most exhausted, dry, or dead, that is exactly where this restorative water aims its resurrecting power. This cross-section shows the behavioral progression to access this flow. The spectator stands in ankle-deep water, firmly planted. The waiter steps knee-deep, still relying on their own strength. At waist-deep, the current exerts pressure, and the human instinct is to retreat to dry land. But the final measurement in Ezekiel is swimmer-deep water. This is a depth that simply cannot be crossed on foot. To enter this deep water, you have to practice total surrender. You must completely give up your footing, throw your hands back, and let the current of the river carry you. When the water is too deep to cross on foot, the only way to avoid drowning is to step off the bottom. It is the moment where self-preservation ends and the current takes over. We can apply that same logic of immersion to our current technology crisis through what is called a redemptive turn. We can do this by adopting the concept of Ubuntu, the philosophy that I am because we are, as the new operating system for our technology. This framework centers collective humanity and community care over corporate extraction. It requires a reordering of the hierarchy. Under an Ubuntu model, the local community steps into the role of the CEO, and artificial intelligence is demoted to the role of the intern. The goal is not to discard the technology, but to subordinate it. When AI serves the survival of the neighborhood, it shifts from being an extractive master into a restorative tool. In the real world, this surrender requires physical actions. It means forcing the AI industry to design infrastructure differently, prioritizing solutions like closed-loop liquid cooling and full immersion cooling systems that don't evaporate local drinking water. We already have a precedent for this. Over the last few years, state regulations have pushed major oil and gas producers in Texas to recycle their wastewater. If the fossil fuel industry can transition away from draining municipal freshwater, so can data centers. A data center cannot be allowed to operate in isolation from the people who live next to it. Its presence must be redeemed to serve and restore the surrounding dryland, rather than starve it. This reordering of priorities reflects the same restorative movement seen in Ezekiel's vision, a shift toward healing the lowest places first. It is the same relief sought by a sailor on a ship surrounded by saltwater, looking for one clean drop. Whether you are surrounded by a sterile ocean or living next to a water-hungry supercomputer, surviving a modern drought means making a choice. You have to step off the bottom, surrender to community care, and let the river bring life.